Hi, today I would like to share with you my top 5 go-to patches on the Deluge. I personally don't use presets all that often, simply because I enjoy the process of making patches, but still there's some sounds I keep coming back to again and again, simply because I like the sound of them and they work well for me in particular contexts. So what I'm going to do today is show you 5 of those and maybe attempt to glue them together in a little piece of music. They're all very basic patches and not by any means exclusive to the Deluge, which is cool because it means you can easily just build it on any other synth as well. So let's start with number 1, which is simply a pulse width modulated square wave. I'm making a new synth here. It's by default already set to a square, so all I have to do is go to the pulse width shortcut and modulate this with, let's say, LFO2. I think this sounds best on low notes, so I'm scrolling down here. And I like it best when there's a little bit of a wobble in the pitch, but not too much, so I'll maybe dial it back a little bit and slow it down a little bit. Something like this. Yeah, that's pretty much it. What I like is maybe a little bit of filter movement on this, so I'm gonna modulate the cutoff frequency with the LFO1 and make this slower, definitely, and also dial it back. And then, depending on what track I use this in, I shape the envelope, the amp envelope to taste, and maybe also use a little bit of envelope mod on the filter cutoff. I'm using envelope 2 for this. So if there's more rhythmic action, I'd go with a quick attack and maybe a bit more modulation, and if it's more of an ambient or drone thing, I'd go with a slow attack and decay. So a little less. Also, one thing I like to do is add some key tracking to the cutoff frequency. It gives me a better range here on the cutoff knob for the filter. Quick side note here, the note modulation source apparently is bipolar, meaning there's a split somewhere in the middle, I'm guessing middle C, and when you're playing higher notes than that, the note modulation is going to increase the cutoff frequency, and playing lower notes results in a decrease in the frequency of the low pass filter. So yeah, that's number 1. Let's move on to the next sound. So I've got 3 subtractive sounds in the list and 2 FM, so I figured why not go back and forth between subtractive and FM. So next one's going to be FM. For this, I'm setting the synth mode to FM. And the first thing I'm going to do here is set the retrigger phase to 0. So there's not as much clicking in the beginning of the sound. This one's going to be kind of a pitched percussion thing with a very short envelope for the frequency modulators and also a short envelope for the amp. The ratios for the modulators are going to be somewhat harmonic. I'm choosing a fifth below and a fifth above the frequency that's associated with the pad I'm pressing here. So, like I said, I'm going to modulate the 2 modulators with an envelope. I'm using envelope 2 for this. Yeah, maybe something like this. Now you can't hear anything yet because the mod amounts are both dialed to 0, so I'll increase them just a little bit. And then, like I said, I'll make this very snappy, this envelope 2. Dial the sustain level down to 0. Amp envelope also. Maybe a little bit of a release. something like this. And then I'll add just a good amount of reverb to this. I'm setting the reverb size to large here. This, I think, works equally well for like plucked melodies, or also just for rhythms, maybe just a chord. Also, sometimes what I like to do is assign the amount of envelope modulation for the one or both of the modulators to velocity. So for this, while I'm in the menu for the envelope amount of FM mod 1, I press the select button and then I can pick the secondary modulation source. And I'm going for velocity here. And I increase this. So now by increasing the velocity here, maybe I have to at the same time decrease the volume velocity mod a bit. I think it's going to be more noticeable with the FM mod 2, so I'm going to do this also. And maybe I'm going to change this to mod 1, the destination of mod 2. Yeah. And at any time I can adjust the sound to my taste by just dialing the amount of frequency mod 1 and 2 up and down by using those quick dials. So yeah, that's that. So like I said, the next sound is going to be a subtractive one again, and this time I'm using a sawtooth. So I'll hit type here and change this to a saw. And this one is kind of a sparkly lead sound. I especially like to use this with arpeggios. And what it is just a sawtooth with an open filter and a good amount of release. Always got to be careful to not overdo it with the release, because otherwise it's going to be heavy on the CPU. Something like this. And then I like to change the filter type to a two-pole filter. So it's a bit softer. And then I usually like to use the high-pass filter as well, just to make sure it doesn't get all muddy when there's an occasional low note. Maybe add a little bit of resonance, maybe to the low-pass filter as well. And then I'm going to punch in a quick arp here just to show you what I mean. Setting the arpeggiator mode to up, octaves 2 is fine, I guess, and then maybe speed it up a bit. Maybe increase the octaves to 3. I think if I punch in an entire new chord, it should reset the arpeggiator. So I'm trying this. So yeah, that's that. Pretty much what I like to do sometimes is modulate the cutoff frequency with a slow LFO, so it kind of fades in and out the arpeggio. So I'm doing this here using LFO 1 because it's free running, and then slow it down. Maybe dial back the resonance a bit. And maybe garnish with a little bit of delay and reverb. To make it a bit smoother, I can always make the attack a bit longer. Yeah, so next one is going to be FM again. Going to synth mode, FM. And this is going to be a kind of a detune pad. For this, I'm leaving the frequencies as they are for the modulators at 0 and -12. And I'm just going to increase the FM modulation amount for both of them a little bit. I'm going to mute this so it doesn't get in the way. And then I'm maybe adding a chord. Again, setting the retrigger phase to 0. The important part here is adding a bit of vibrato to that whole thing. And then maybe some reverb or a bit of delay. Don't like the sequence that I did here, so I'm changing this. The vibrato speed, by the way, is determined by LFO1. There seems to be always a connection between LFO1 and the pitch. Let's see, that's actually true. So if I go to transpose master and then LFO1, yeah. Still nice to have a dedicated vibrato shortcut here. Cool thing here is FM2 amount brings in the low octave and makes the sound really bassy, and the other one just adds a bunch of harmonics, makes it sound more saw-ish. Very simple, but oftentimes the simplest things are the ones that turn out to be most useful. So the last one is a subtractive sound again, and it's probably my favorite on this list. It's a sawtooth filtered with a short envelope, kind of a plucky thing, and a bit of randomization on the cutoff. So I'm making a new synth, and then I'm changing the type here to a saw. I'll filter it. I'll make the envelope short. A little bit of release. And a little bit of resonance. So it sounds a little bit like a cheap piano sound. And then I'm going to add some envelope modulation to the cutoff frequency. And I'll make envelope 2 short as well. Maybe dial this back a bit. I'll add reverb to this. And then, like I said, I'm gonna modulate the frequency here with the random modulation source. So it's a little bit different each time. What I also like to do is, in addition to the cutoff frequency itself, also add some random modulation to the amount of envelope modulation from envelope 2 to the cutoff frequency. So the way you do this is you go to the cutoff frequency and then to envelope 2, like you would if you just wanted to modulate the frequency with envelope 2, and then you hit the select button for the secondary modulation source, and this time I'm going to pick random here. So this way, whenever the random value is higher, it's going to also add a little more envelope modulation on top of that, which I think sounds kind of natural. What I like to use this for is for fast melodies, and sometimes just as a kind of a ornamental thing, just some little notes here and there. Oh, gotta turn this guy off. Now I said I like it for fast melodies, so let's do something faster here. Yeah, something like this. So there you have it, my top 5 patches on the Deluge, and now what I'm going to try to do is to make something out of this. I think I should keep it simple to make this work, so I'm looking for a note where this guy kind of hits the sweet spot, and then I'll set the root note here for the scale. Now I think I'm going to go with a minor scale. I'm going to start maybe with this guy, and then or this. On second thought, I'm going to change the root note again because I want the first note to be here. Or maybe even a little higher, so I can go lower. So I'll set it to maybe this G sharp. And then again, it's supposed to be minor. Yeah, why not? And then next I'm going to this chord track. Make it quieter. The FM sounds tend to be a bit louder with no filter. Maybe this one. I'm thinking I'm gonna go twice as long, and for the second part, I'm gonna move this down. Make this like a suspended kind of thing. Gonna do the same thing here. Yeah, why not? Sounds pretty. And then what do we have here? Yeah, I think I'll keep it like this. Because of the FM modulation, it's kind of... This guy now sounds like the root and not this anymore, but I'll just go with it. Maybe here. Go 2 of 2. I'm gonna get rid of the sustain here altogether. And then let's have a look at this arp here. I actually like how that sounds. I'm not going to change a thing here. And then maybe I'm going to use this one for a melody. I think this is going to be all weird now. Yes, this is not going to lead to anything, so I'll have to delete this. But first what I want to do is further dial back the volume of these FM sounds. I'm going to duplicate this by holding Shift and then this left-right scroll button so I can make some changes in the second half. Now, the velocity values of these are all a bit too low. Yeah, I guess there's no way around this. I just have to go through them and increase them. Gain staging, I'm telling you, it's the most important thing. So these sounds are all a good starting point, and of course, if something a little bit different is needed because of the track, I can always make changes. So here I'm thinking I'm gonna add a sub-octave, also sawtooth here, just to give it a little more substance or punch or whatever you want to call it. So, bring this in. I'm going to try saturation too. No, I think the thing I'm looking for is just volume, so I'm going to further dial back the volumes of the other tracks. Yeah, nice. I like this. It does sound like something I've done a million times, and this is probably because I'm using all the sounds I use a lot, but I don't care. If it sounds all right, why not do the same thing multiple times? So to finish things off, a super quick beat here. I'm increasing the velocity for the offbeat maracas here. And then to make it more like a hi-hat and less like a maraca, I'm going to just change the starting point of the sample here so it comes in quick. A bit of LFO modulation for the filter cutoff, and I'm going to set the shape of LFO1 to a saw. And sync it to a quarter note. Pitching up the snare. Yeah, so before I get carried away too much here, I'm just going to give it a go and see what happens. Maybe I'll add in some drums on the fly. And yeah, hopefully I won't forget about this arpeggio guy here and see what I can do with this. I think I'm going to start with the chords here. Oh, and by the way, thanks a lot for watching.